Okay, so apparently I'm live, and that's awesome. Man, it just looks vastly different compared to everything else. All right, so today I'm here discussing the Exorcist Files, a podcast by Father Martins that goes over the understanding of exorcism from a Catholic perspective. Now, before I go into that, there's a few reasons. There's a few things I want to bring up. The first one is this is also going to be serving as a reach out for a fundraiser. A parishioner at my parish has a 5-year-old named Jacob who recently was diagnosed with leukemia. And so one of the reasons why I'm doing this is to help with promoting for that fundraising. And you can find that in the link in the description. And I believe I pinned it in the live chat. So if you're willing to share that link or donate or say prayers for the family, all three would be great. So thank you for that. Second is I recently asked for prayers for my for a job as I was in between jobs, and I would like to say thank you very much for doing that. I did recently get a job offer, and I start next Monday, so I'm very happy about that. For those of you that don't know, I'm a statistician, and so I clearly don't do this as my main thing, but it's something I do on the side. All right, so the Halloween theme looking thumbnail, although fittingly appropriate for what we're about to discuss, is for the Exorcist Files. So the Exorcist Files is on Spotify. It's something you listen to entirely. There's no images besides the image for the episode. It's very well done. I have never really been in a podcast where I go there for entertainment, but this is incredibly entertaining. It is not something that is simply everything's just like demons are this, angels are this. This is how you understand an exorcist, in kind of like this lecture format. It's very engaging, and the stories are very. They definitely bring you in like a movie. They do a very good job of avoiding the trap of putting the theme first, or I'm sorry, putting the theme first and the story second. The story is very much first, but the theme is like right behind it, and it doesn't fall into this, like, if you watch one of those movies, those Christian movies that is overly lighty, it doesn't feel like that at all. It's more like true crime meets real horror, because you're going through basically a legal scene. You're a legal story that is real, and that's where the horror comes in. Is especially the first one. The first one does a great job as kind of like an entry into understanding demonic possession and oppression, just how that comes about. Furthermore, I'm not going to be giving any spoilers because that would be terrible. Because so there's no spoilers in this. It's kind of like a very top heavy view, or a top level view of the Exorcist Files. So according to Father Martins, he was asked by the Vatican to make this, and so he did. He's an exorcist. He's actually, if I'm not mistaken, located in my archdiocese in Detroit. And he's also known as the relic guy because occasionally he does go to the parishes around here and elsewhere with a ridiculous amount of relics. And so he knows what he's talking about. And I'm very happy that this exists, because I think that this is like a huge dimension spiritually that we lack in the Catholic Church, that we don't focus on enough, which is the understanding of the demonic in our lives, the principalities and powers that we're fighting against. Like there's not enough appreciation for that. And I think Father Martins in this does a great job of not only explaining how to properly understand from a Catholic perspective demons and possession, but also how to remedy it and what an individual can do. to either notice signs or when to appropriately come back to the church in a particular way. So, and again, I'm trying not to give spoilers, so like that's why I'm not like going into it. But it's so the so it's story. So the format is this: story, and then basically almost like advertisements, there's like little bits of interview with Father Martins about what just happened in the story. And so it kind of like something happens, you don't know why it happened, and then they go to Father Martins and he brings you up to speed theologically what it's supposed to be about. And so knowing that the Vatican asked him to do this um, is really helpful for me, because I'm all about like, all right, well, is this speculation? Are these just people going out and throwing um, wild theories about how demons interact with humans, whether curses are real, whether there's generational demons? All of that actually gets addressed, and it gets addressed pretty succinctly and uh, I don't know, like I guess like it just gets addressed. And so usually I would cut that out. So being the first live stream. So so I was very happy because I've followed Father Chad Rippiger in terms of his spiritual warfare talks. And I was very happy at like how much of it was validated by Father Martins. It helped me concrete some things that were not as concrete when I watched Father Chad Rippiger. So that was very helpful. And so going back to the format, there's a narrator, and the narrator, Ryan Bethea, does a very good job of not sounding boring. He has a few dad jokes here or there, but as a dad, I appreciate that. And then he explains little things here and there contextually to kind of bring you up to speed in the story. And he tends to leave the theology to Father Martins. So there's that. Would I say any of it was boring? I've got a question sheet just to help me, because the answer I would say is no. And one of the reasons why is the soundtrack is amazing, which is definitely a secondary thing, but it really does that soundtrack. Whoever did the music did a great job of being able to draw you in with that music and create a type of environment, because it's all supposed to be done with your ears. You're not supposed to be looking at anything necessarily. It's supposed to be very much an engagement in the mind through the ears. And so I think they did a great job with that. I listened with my wife, so that was great because, as I've talked about before, my wife's a pagan. And so like that's been kind of like an interesting discussion, and it's opened up the door to being, I think, very fruitful from that angle. And for her, not being Catholic, it has helped her understand the Catholic faith in a more, I want to say, practical way, because when you deal with deliverance prayers, when you deal with exorcism, like that's a very practical thing. Don't get me wrong, the sacraments, that's where most of the grace is. I'm not going to diminish that at all, and Father Martins certainly doesn't. And I don't mean to say that. It's just that's very different, because she can't really be in that in the sacraments because she's not Catholic. So except for marriage, which that's a whole issue, and we'll discuss that in a different video. Yeah. So I do want to also bring back up, because it's been about 10 minutes. So the fundraiser for Jacob, it's pinned in the chat and in the description. He was diagnosed with leukemia, and his parents, as well as him, are fellow parishioners of mine at Where I Go. So if you can share that, donate, or pray, all three would be appreciated. So going back to the Exorcist files, right now they've only done one season, but according to Father Martins, they're supposed to do more. And so They clarify a lot of questions, but there's certainly more questions to be clarified because there's just a lot of misinformation. Like, I know that's a term that's been used a lot, but there is a lot of misinformation and speculation on what happens with the interplay between, say, sacraments like baptism and possession or something like that. Like it's there's a lot more questions to be answered, and so there's going to be a season 2 from my understanding. So I would say definitively that this is not something for kids. The podcast would probably be best for teenagers, like maybe 13 plus. And then obviously adults. Like, I certainly enjoyed it. I certainly learned things from it. I'm 35. And I thought I knew a lot about this, but like this kind of like, it did blow me away in certain aspects, especially with how they explain how Protestants react to certain to the possessions. And I thought that was an interesting interplay because they do talk about Protestants. They talk about Protestants coming to them, and then also like deliverance prayers in Protestant circles and what happens there, which is obviously an interesting question. And it, as a critique, it did kind of get annoying that for a Catholic show, how many times they went to Protestant examples. To me, I think they went like one or two too many. I think there's only 5 total in terms of like interdispersed between all the different cases. But that's kind of like that's my personal critique, because I think it goes too much. It uses too many examples from Protestants as opposed to just using Catholic examples to emphasize certain understandings within the Catholic application. But they did answer questions that I had, so I was happy nonetheless. Another critique, and something that I think most people should understand when it comes to watching The Last Case. The Last Case, there are parts of it that sound like audio, and I'm going to say this weird because I have to, because I understand like this word is a trigger word. Prawn. There are parts of it that sound like audio prawn. So just reverse the two letters in the middle, and you'll understand what it is. That is absolutely unnecessary in the story, and it may be triggering for people, especially with the prawn crisis that we have in our society. Gosh, it sounds weird, but I know I can't say it because if I say it, it triggers the video. So I'm sorry. But the and so like that's very important to note. It's The Last Case. I believe it's the first or second episode of The Last Case that happens. What is it? The other one, there is a what is it? There's also an example in case 3 where this is a critique. This has nothing to do with the previous critique. There's an example in case 3 that Ryan seems to overgeneralize a point that Father Martins was making to the detriment of what was being said. And so I don't think there was enough nuance in there. And so it kind of makes it sound like Father Martins said one thing and then Ryan said another. After thinking about it and like really analyzing it, that's not quite true, but that impression still comes across. And so let's see. So the series is very good. It promotes Catholicism in a very positive way, in a very dynamic way. It does a good job of explaining different aspects of the faith that are not said in the pulpit all that much, nor are they explained just generally. So if you want to learn more about Exorcist, if you want to learn more about demonic possession, oppression, watch this, because it clarifies it. It is a catechetical program. It is approved by people who can approve such things, and this will help you understand what you're supposed to know as a lay person. So trying to think, I don't think I have anything else going on with this. I guess if you have any questions, the one person that's watching, the one person that's watching right now, yeah, probably 1 p.m. is not the greatest time. But if you have any questions, put it in the chat and I'll answer it. But yeah, so like the last thing I want to say is, please look at the fundraiser for Jacob. This is to help with his family, whether it be praying, sharing the link, or donating. All three would be appreciated. Because, as we know, the inflation that's going on and the recession that we're currently in is hitting everyone hard. So having a 5-year-old and thinking about the situation, me having a 5-year-old and thinking about the situation, if that were to happen, it would be understandably hard. And so please help them out as best you can. So just to kind of pad the time a little bit and give some explanation for what's coming next. Since it's October, I am going to be going over dragons as a topic because of how we view them has changed from, the early church to now. The other topic I'm going to be doing is the angel of death and how Catholics should view it, because we do have an angel of death, and it's not Azrael, which I believe is the Muslim and Jewish understanding of the angel of death. So we have an angel of death. I'll be making a video on that, and then I will also be making a video as promised on the interesting dynamic between my wife and I, because I guess if for only to help people understand how to live as a faithful and practicing Catholic in that situation, because we're going to have more people who are in that situation where you have a Catholic and you're marrying an atheist or a pagan or a humanist, which is just another form of pagan, or it's like a pagan atheist. But like, that's very important to understand. And we've been married for 13 years and we have our 5th child on the way. And so that's, yeah. So, so besides that, I don't see any questions. I hope this has been helpful for you. I hope it's been helpful for you. So thank you very much for watching. If you want to check out the program, the Exorcist files, it's in the description. So please click there. And last plug, if you could help with the leukemia diagnosis, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you and have a great Monday.